Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I am Jason and I'm here to bring you the fight picks for the big one, probably one of the biggest ones of the year, going to be UFC 245, 3 straps are on the line. We have Kamaru Usman taking on Colby Covington, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, Amanda Nunes, Jermaine Demrandamy, all going at it for the welter, the feather, and the ladies' bantamweight straps in Las Vegas, Nevada on December 14th. I have all the fights crunched for us, including the couple debut bouts that we have. Let's get into it. Here's the show. All right, let's kick things off with the main event. The 170-pound showdown is about to go down for welterweight supremacy, and it's going to be between the Nigerian Nightmare and, MAGA hat, Snowflake Fighter, the Snowflake Avenger, whatever the hell kind of character Colby Covington is trying to be right now. He goes by Chaos, but we all know him as, your number one Donald Trump supporter right now in the UFC, right? So he's going to be going up. He's the interim champion. Kamaru is the rightful lineal champion, taking out Tyron Woodley in his last fight. And this one is going to be interesting, and it might disappoint some of you out there because I actually like the Colby act in so much that I think he makes a great heel. Obviously, the shit that he says, I'm not too fond of, but I love the act. I love his character. I think it makes, the theatrical element of the entertainment side of MMA that much more, and I find it enjoyable in that regard. All that being said, though, Kamaru Usman is going to take home not another belt because they do the Ruby system. He's going to put a Ruby on that strap by taking out Colby Covington. Let's talk about why. So, what are Colby Covington's biggest strengths? Right? We have to go, number one is his cardio. Number two is his volume of striking. Number three is his wrestling. Okay, those are his biggest, elements, right? He's mostly a decision fighter, as is Usman, right? Usman, 6 KOs, 1 submission. Covington, 2 KOs, 5 submissions. These guys aren't necessarily shutting the door. They might be entertaining to watch over the 25 or 15 minutes that they fight, but you do not necessarily expect either one of them to end the fight. When I look over at Covington's, credentials, if you will, he has not had a knockout or a submission since 2016. He actually fought in the Diaz-McGregor 2 card, going way back to that. That was his last KO or TKO against Max Griffin. Looking back at Usman, I had to go back to 2017 against Sergio Moraes to get his last knockout. Everything else is decision after decision after decision for both of these guys. And that's how I expect things to play out again in this main event. But getting back to Covington's strengths, right? I mentioned the wrestling, the cardio, the grappling, right? What does Usman also possess? Great striking output, right? Not maybe quite to the same level we saw with Covington against Robbie Lawler, but we know that he has great output. In fact, on average, he actually has a little bit higher output, a little higher accuracy than Covington. He also has phenomenal wrestling. I mean, look how he dismantled Woodley on the ground and held who, we believe to be a very competent wrestler in Tyron Woodley down for almost 5 rounds to take the title. And then we look at the cardio, the gas tank. And that's, I think, going to be the biggest undoing for Covington. So when you looked at Covington's matchup against Robbie Lawler and Rafael dos Anjos, he was a master of putting his foot on the gas just enough to have super high output for 5 rounds, for 25 straight minutes. The problem is, Lawler and dos Anjos are guys that they need a second, right? They need to find a rhythm, a chance to catch their breath. If they don't get that, it's going to be difficult for them to find a pathway to victory. Problem is, you can't do that to Usman. I don't think you can smother him the same way you can smother Lawler, dos Anjos, and Damian Maia with that constant, volume of punches, with the fact that you're not getting tired. Usman is not going to get tired. He's not going to need to find his breath. He's going to be able to find rhythm as Colby comes forward. Usman is going to I think, find a way, honestly, to take him down in those transitions as Colby's coming in. I think he's going to be making level changes to make Colby question, what he wants to do. Will Colby score a takedown? Will Usman score a takedown? I think it's certainly possible, but I believe that Usman is going to be just a hair better, knife edge better than Colby everywhere this fight's going to take place. And I'm a Colby fan. I actually do not want to bet on this fight strictly because I think, in my heart, my gut, that Colby can get it done. He can actually live the dream of being the real UFC champion as this character. And I think that would be fun to watch. The problem is I just don't think he has the skills to pay the bills here against a guy that does everything he does a little bit better. And that's just my opinion, or what the numbers say, the opinion of the numbers. Let's talk about one little ace in the hole for Covington, though, where I think that he could potentially sneak it out, and that comes down to that American Top Team. American Top Team is one of the finest gyms in MMA, and nothing against Hard Knocks 365, but they're not American Top Team. They don't have Mike Brown. They don't have the wealth of talent down there. And I think that Colby Covington's team can design a program to defeat Usman better than Usman's team can design a plan to beat Covington. Now, the plan might not be that important because the styles are so similar that they both know what they're going to do before they're even going to do it. But I still like that American Top Team. I still think they're going to be better at finding chinks or holes in the game of Usman, and I believe that Covington could somehow get it done in my heart of hearts. Numbers, they sometimes lie to me. They sometimes point us in the wrong direction. But I don't think they are in this one. I think Usman ultimately gets it done, and I am picking Nigerian Nightmare in the main event. All right, moving on to our co-main, we're going to have a very good one because we have the probably best 145er ever. Sorry, Jose Aldo, although we will be talking about him later on this card. Probably the best 145er ever in Max Holloway going up against Alexander Volkanovski. And this fight is going to hinge on one thing and one thing only, in my opinion, and it's going to be Max Holloway's takedown defense, because that is the number one pathway to victory for Volkanovski. His takedown rate is ridiculous. His ability to score ground and pound by getting the fight to the mat is nearly unprecedented in this division. His takedown rate, he averages almost 3 for an entire 15-minute fight. That is great numbers. I mean, maybe we're not at Khabib level, but at this division, this is phenomenal stuff. Can Max Holloway, stuff takedowns to that degree? Well, let's look at guys he's fought recently and decide if this makes sense, right? So Frankie Edgar, right? This guy is a little small, I think, in modern MMA, okay? He couldn't get it done. Then we go down the list. Loses to Dustin Poirier at 155. That was basically a boxing affair, so we got to kind of push that one off to the side. Loses to defeats Brian Ortega. A guy, brilliant jiu-jitsu, brilliant submission grappler, not a takedown artist. Jose Aldo beats him twice. Again, not a takedown artist at all. Basically a boxer with, amazing leg kicks. Great, kickboxing, emphasis to his, primary traditional boxing, Queensberry rules game. Okay, not a takedown artist. Anthony Pettis, far from a takedown artist, although he does have good submission game, but we know he loves to strike. That Taekwondo background, trains over with Duke Rufus, and he has a great background there. Ricardo Lamas, Jeremy Stevens, and really, in order to get to a guy that I think actually has decent enough takedown game, we got to go all the way back 2015 and find guys like Charles Oliveira and Cub Swanson. Okay, so it's been a while since he's fought a guy that had any kind of real takedown game, in my opinion. Not to say some of these guys weren't phenomenal grapplers, but were they phenomenal takedown artists? Not really, not fully in my opinion. Or they chose to keep it standing for the most part, a la Dustin Poirier. Okay, and and not to say Dustin Poirier is an amazing takedown artist, but I think he's very well rounded and certainly can pull it off against guys, right? When we look at Volkanovski, I think that his takedown potential is so high that he's going to be able to expose a hole in Max Holloway's game that we just haven't seen. His ability to stuff takedowns is incredible. He stuffs takedowns at his takedown defense is only 16%. He stops 84% of all takedowns that come his way. He probably hasn't been taken down in several fights, right? He always finds a way to scramble and get back to his feet. I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski is a very big 145er. The former rugby player knows how to get guys to the ground, and I think he's going to have a tackle double, a power double leg that's going to put Holloway down. He's not going to be able to scramble back to his feet. I think he's going to find himself at a disadvantage because once he's on the mat, right, and he can't scramble out of it, what's he going to do? I don't think he's going to have a whole lot to offer. And I think Volkanovski is going to have the ground and pound to take that strap away from this 145-pound legend. And I think that we're going to have a new champion, one of the only, I'm going to say right now, the only new champion we're going to have on the night. Okay, to give a little preview to the Nunes fight. Volkanovski is going to be the first new 145-pound champion in a long time, and I think he deserves it. I am picking Alexander the Great Volkanovski in the co-main. All right, I just said it. I gave a little preview, but we got to talk about the Lioness, Amanda Nunes, and the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie. So on this one, I have Nunes winning on all occasions. And even though Germaine de Randamie is a phenomenal kickboxer, right, so is Valentina Shevchenko. And what has Amanda Nunes done to her each and every time? Granted, hey, you can argue maybe Shevchenko took their second contest. But let's not argue about that because it's already in the books. Amanda Nunes is able to defeat anyone in this game. She's like the John Jones at 135 pounds, or if you want to go back, Ronda Rousey. I don't think Germaine de Randamie does any one particular thing so well that she's going to be able to defeat Nunes. Can de Randamie grapple? No, she's a big-time kickboxer. Does she have takedowns? No, not really. Does she have clinch work? Yeah, she has clinch work, and she has phenomenal kickboxing. What does Nunes have? She has takedown game. She has some submission game. She has great boxing. Her kicking aspect of the kickboxing is maybe not as high level as de Randamie, but her hands are like lightning. She's swinging sledgehammers out there, and I think that she can put de Randamie to sleep. I think that chin on de Randamie has also been tested probably a few too many times in the kickboxing world that I think Nunes could potentially put her lights out. The only thing for Nunes is she has to be careful of this because of the Holly Holm fight. She has to watch out for a little bit of dirty shit, right? So we've seen de Randamie go after the bell. If you're Nunes, keep your guard up until Herb Dean, Murgliata, No Nonsense Keith Peterson, whomever is doing the judging gets in between you guys. That's when you put your guard down. That's when you head back to your corner. Keep an eye on this Iron Lady. If she rings her bell after it sounds, this thing could go another way. Ask Holly Holm about it when she had her shot, right? So I am picking Amanda Nunes in this. She beats everybody that has some kind of specialty. Look what she did to Holm. Again, amazing boxer, right? She does kickboxing too now, but great boxer. She beat Justine Carano. So if you want to brawl with her, guess what? She's going to KO you. Raquel Pennington, a woman that I think has a little bit of a, grappling, wrestling background. Not like super sophisticated, but pretty good. Dismantled her. Valentina Shevchenko, closest, right? Split decision, but she still won. And I think de Randamie, even with her best stuff, is not going to be better personally than Shevchenko. And so I got to, at least in the MMA world, let's put it that way. So I got to go with the Lioness. I think she retains her strap, and I have no idea what she does after this. After she's cleaned this division out, I guess there's some up-and-comers at 135 that she could certainly take on. But I definitely see it going the Lioness's way, and she's going to pick up a W in Las Vegas. Okay, now we get to our first non-title fight of the night, where we're going to have Marlon Magic Moraes, kind of looks like Mr. Clean. We'll call him Mr. Clean Moraes, taking on Jose Aldo, right? Probably one of the best 145ers ever, right? Probably, I got to say, he's not as good as Holloway. Granted, he may have had a bigger, more dominant run, although it's really arguable, right? I think Holloway's 1, maybe he's 2, right? Anyways, this was all 145 when I talk about Aldo. And that is going to be the big deciding factor here because this is the 135-pound debut for Jose Aldo. So this is really hard, right? What kind of weight cut is he having? Where is his health at this 10-pound drop? Where is his stamina? Where is his strength? Where is his cardio? Where is his endurance? Is his chin there? These are all questions that I cannot answer right now. I have the numbers, and all the numbers I have are 145-pound numbers, right? For Moraes, I have 135-pound numbers, so I'm not worried about Moraes. Granted, when he does see adversity, like he did against Cejudo, he does seem to crumble a little bit under the pressure. Does he have the same pressure, I think, as going up for the strap? Maybe not quite. He's fighting on a big card, but he's not going for a strap. The only thing I can say is that he is fighting a legend, so it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that. So, got a couple of tangibles for both guys. But going with just the straightforward numbers, I'm going to pick Jose Aldo here. The guy is so dominant against everybody he fights that isn't named Max Holloway. And of course, we do have the whole thing. Also, the Volkanovski fight. Let's not forget that one. But looking at those figures for his entire career of information that we have, I got to say he's better than Moraes. His boxing is so top-notch. His ability to scramble up from takedowns is so high. His leg kicks are still there. I think that he's going to be able to defeat Moraes. And, getting back to that intangible, where will Moraes be after his loss to Cejudo? Is he still going to be mentally there like he wants it? He climbed the mountain once. Can he climb it again? That's a question that we won't really be able to see the answer to until Saturday. There's a lot of unanswered questions in this, but I do not think that Moraes is going to KO Aldo as long as his chin is still there, because he has not been KO'd since Holloway, and really those were volume shots, and I don't think Moraes quite has the gas tank to hang for that level of volume. Look what he would Cejudo. He did tire out there. So we'll see how it plays out. A lot of unanswered questions with this one. Take it with a grain of salt, like I usually say. In another great one at bantamweight, where you're going to have Peter Yan take on the California kid himself, Uriah Faber, fighting at 40 years of age. Just let that sink in for a second. This guy is 40, made his comeback against Ricky Simone after a short layoff with his last fight coming in 2016, and it's just been one hell of a ride with Uriah Faber. I do like watching the guy fight. That is for certain. But let's talk about why I think he's actually going to lose this one. So, Peter Yan is a great, phenomenal prospect right now. He's doing great things. He has great wins against great fighters. Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson, Douglas Andrade, and then, he's kind of been knowing in the UFC for a couple of fights. So some, smaller names out there like Jin Soo Sun. But I think he's on a great tear right now, and he just looks like a phenomenal talent. When we go over and look at some of the numbers that back this up, we can see that Jan's striking output is just phenomenal. It's double what Faber's is. He has higher accuracy, and he has a very well-rounded takedown game and great takedown defense. In fact, his takedown defense is better historically than Faber's himself, who has that deep wrestling background. So I think ultimately for this Faber contest, it's just going to come down to the fact that Peter Yan is a younger MMA fighter, doing it faster, doing it cleaner than Uriah Faber once, or now, I wouldn't know about once did it, because he was one of the best, right? He was a former champion, but he's doing it better than Uriah is capable of doing it today at 40 years of age. And if he's capable of actually doing it better, and I'm wrong, I want to know what he's taking, because I need it too, right? I mean, for 40 years old, the guy is still pretty ripped, so I actually kind of wonder what's going on there. Good genes, right? That's always good genetics. Awesome genetics. That's right. No picograms to be found. Good genetics. Anyways, I think that Peter Yan is going to be able to get it done here. I think it's going to be on the feet mostly. It'll be interesting to see if Faber does try to take it to the ground, because, even though he does have a great submission game, I think that Yan is no slouch, and his one submission over his 13 wins doesn't really tell the whole story of this guy. He's a well-rounded MMA fighter that I think is very capable of beating Uriah Faber anywhere he wants to put this matchup. So at the end of the day, I am picking No Mercy Peter Yan to pick up a W. In what will be our dark horse fight of the night, we are going to have Mike Platinum, or I like to call him Florida Man Perry, take on Jeff Hands of Steel Neal in what should be a don't blink kind of welterweight matchup. So both these guys, we know, Hands of Steel Neal and Mike Perry, are crazy knockout artists. 11 KOs over Mike Perry's 13 wins and 7 over Neal's 12 wins. This one is going to potentially end in a dramatic fashion. But how do I think it is going to ultimately play out? Well, let me tell you. I believe the Hands of Steel Neal is going to be enough to get it done in Las Vegas. Looking at his credentials, his TKO of Nico Price, his defeat of Bilal Muhammad, he KOs Frank Camacho, he chokes out Brian Carmozzi. The guy is just on a tear, and we have not seen the same from Mike Perry. He just recently got his nose broken back in August. I don't know, that thing was so badly busted. I don't know how healed that is. Neal hits him on the the button on the nose, is that thing going to cave in? We don't know. I don't know how well that thing is healed. Is that enough time? He has lost wins over Alex Oliveira, but, Alex Oliveira is a little more of a, submission artist. And then he always has lost to Cerrone, Max Griffin, Ponzinibbio. He does have a win in Felder mixed up in there, but I don't think he's fun to watch. But I don't think he's the kind of guy who can do it at the top level. And I think Jeff Neal is a top level kind of guy. I really think that he is. And I believe that he's going to be able to make a statement at welterweight by defeating Mike Perry. Mike Perry might be the fan favorite, but Hands of Steel Neal is going to be the fight, fans, the real MMA fans kind of pick. He's the fighter you want to see. He's a guy that's going places, and I think Perry, unfortunately, is going to be more of a middling fighter that I don't know if he's ever going to see his full potential. We'll see how it plays out, though, but I am picking Hands of Steel Neal in this contest. Another bantamweight contest, this time at ladies bantamweight. We are going to have a fighter that I'm not too familiar with, Ketlen Vieira, taking on Irene Aldana, a fighter I am a little more familiar with. And Vieira does train out of the same gym as Jose Aldo, which is kind of a nice thing to see. But she's a fighter that has kind of flown under my radar. She has wins over Kat Zingano, Sarah McMahon, Ashley Evans-Stevens. She has really good fights in the UFC, but she hasn't fought in a little while, not since March 3rd, 2018. Before that, she fought 2 times in 2017, so even before I was doing the podcast. So she's flown under my radar a little bit, but she's 10-0. She's looking good. She's well-rounded, 2 KOs, 4 submissions. Over her 10 wins, that's some pretty good figures. When I look over at Irene Aldana, she just had a loss to Pennington, but she looks pretty good overall, obviously. And in this contest, I ultimately think that the less well-known fighter for me, Vieira, is actually going to be the one to get it done. When I look over at the numbers, Irene Aldana has that amazing striking output, but I believe ultimately the takedown game that we've seen out of Vieira, it might be there to take away some of that striking ability. And let's bear in mind that she's also a volume striker. I don't expect, too many KOs. Well, she just has 5 KOs over 11 wins. So, who knows? She's a great striker. She could definitely put her on. She's a Mexican boxer. I was not sleep on her too bad. But I think the takedown game might be there enough for Vieira to get Aldana to the ground, nullifying that situation. Granted, Aldana does have great takedown defense. It's just that I think that Ketlen might be able to get it done here, might be able to push it to the ground and take that ability away. We'll ultimately see how it plays out, though. This is not a fight that is actually 100% on all my metrics. I do have a metric where Aldana is winning this one, so we'll see how things play out ultimately. However, I'm going to go with Vieira in this contest. In our next contest at middleweight, we are going to have Ian the Hurricane Heinz take on Omari the Wolverine Akhmedov in what should be a very good contest. So I talked about the story of Heinz on the podcast earlier. He did have a tough criminal background growing up. He spent time at Rikers in New York, but he found his way. He found his way to MMA, and he disciplined his life and made something, and he's doing something productive now with his life. And he's in a great contest in the UFC. The only problem is, I think he's going to run into one of the X-Men here who's going to tear his freaking limbs off. So Omari Akhmedov, the Wolverine, this guy is a phenomenal Dagestani wrestler with great striking ability as well to back it up. And if he doesn't have it on the feet, he's going to get it on the ground. So Heinz's takedown defense just isn't that great. He only stops about half of them. And, Akhmedov has a high takedown rate and high takedown accuracy. I think that he's going to get to the mat. I think it's going to be a Khabib-style affair. He's going to smash him. He's going to pick him up, put him down, and keep him there for all 3 rounds. I think Heinz's only pathway to victory here is by throwing just some wild, crazy haymakers to try to clip him. But he doesn't do that very often with just 4 KOs of his 13 wins. So I think, Akhmedov actually has more knockouts than Heinz himself with 7 over his 19 and 5 submissions over his 19. I think that Akhmedov is the smart money on this one. As much as I love Heinz, as much as I've loved that he's, turned his life around and done better for himself, I just don't think he's going to be able to win here. I'd like to see it happen, because I like Heinz. I like what he's doing. But I got to go with Akhmedov, the Wolverine here. He's our pick in Vegas. In another one that is, it's hard for me to call because I like the guy just like Heinz. We have the immortal Matt Brown taking on Killa B, Ben Saunders. And in this one, I actually do have Saunders selected. And part of that just comes down to the fact that we just have not really seen that much out of Matt Brown lately against somebody that isn't named Diego Sanchez. He was on a 3-fight losing streak through 2016, and then his last fight was in 2017 against Diego Sanchez, where he did win, but he hasn't fought since then. So it's curious to see how he'll come back. And then Ben Saunders, he's been a little more active, but not successful. He has 3 straight losses, 1 in 2019 and 2 in 2018. So it's interesting to see how this one will play out. We do have 2 fighters that, seem to have a hard time getting wins lately, and it's just a tough one to crunch. The available information may not be as accurate as it seems. But in this one, I love Matt Brown. I love him. I loved his run, in his earlier years when he did look like a destroyer leading up, to his fight with Robbie Lawler. But I just don't think he's going to be able to get it done against Saunders. I think Saunders, might be able to pick up a potential knockout here. But I think it could honestly just come as easily for Matt Brown against Saunders because he's been knocked out 8 times, and his chin might not be there anymore. This is definitely not for the faint of heart. If you're in the gambling scene, do we catch old Matt Brown? I think he wins all day. If we catch the Matt Brown that was being dismantled earlier, it just comes down to, can Ben Saunders do it? And I just don't know if he honestly can in my heart of hearts. The numbers say that Saunders will, but this one's pretty close down the middle. They have similar striking game, similar accuracy. The only thing Matt Brown is going for him is his superior takedowns, which I don't know if he'd be able to exploit. Saunders has only lost via submission once. So he does, even though he's losing a lot, he's not losing so much via submission, although Sergio Moraes did catch him that one time. And it'd just be interesting. Matt Brown is not a submission specialist. Ultimately, I know I'm talking a lot here, I'm rambling a bit. I don't know who's going to win this one. My heart says Matt Brown. My numbers say Saunders. I'm ultimately going to go with Saunders. He's the pick. All right, in the next one, this is going to be a debuter. We're going to have Daniel Tamor take on Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper, don't know much about him. He's coming out of the Titan FC series. He's 20 years old. He's 8-0. The kid definitely at the age of 20 being 8-0 is something to watch out for. And I'm sure Dana White, saw him and decided that he was worth a look when he first went on the Contender Series last year. So he wasn't even 20 years old yet when he was on there. The kid has been winning since outside of the Dana White Contender Series, and now he's finally ready for a shot against Daniel Tamor. And Tamor, he's okay. He hasn't had the best time in the UFC. He had 3 straight losses. Danny Henry, Julio Ars, Chris Fishgold. He did pick up a win over Sung Bin Jo back in June. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do it against this hot prospect. This kid has a really long reach. He's 6'1", which is gigantic for this weight class. He reminds me of a Sugar Sean O'Malley, and I think he's going to be able to dismantle the only 5'5", short reach of Daniel Tamor. I think that he's going to be able to pick up a win here in his UFC debut based on what we know about him. He's got 2 KOs and 4 submissions over his 8 wins. I imagine those long limbs he does use for triangles, rear naked chokes, when he can, and that's exactly what he has. 2 rear naked chokes and 3 rear naked chokes and 1 triangle. So he's definitely using those limbs to reach around and put you out as quickly as possible. In this one, we are going to pick the Teenage Dream, although he can't really use that name for much longer, can he? He's now 20 years old. We're going to pick Chase Hooper. Holy crap, though, he was born in 99. I feel like a goddamn old man. 9/13/99. He really just turned 20 years old. Oh, man. I'm going to be talking about kids born in the year 2000 and later before I know it. Crazy, crazy stuff. Anyways, we're picking the Teenage Dream, Chase Hooper. And what should be a great matchup at flyweight, where you're going to have Brandon Moreno, the baby assassin, take on Kai Don't Blink Kara-France, and I think he's earned that Don't Blink title because he has been knocking guys out, which is kind of a rare occurrence at the not bantamweight, flyweight weight class. Granted, Moreno, even though Kara-France has the KO, Moreno has the submissions in his back pocket. It's just that he has not found one of those submissions since 2017. However, neither has Kai Kara-France. He also has not found a knockout in quite a while, so both these guys might be looking to shut the door, but we'll see if either one of them is actually able to. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go with Kai Kara-France here. I think he's the better, more well-rounded MMA fighter here. I think that he's going to be able to keep it standing, and I think that he's going to be able to get victories like guys like Pantoja and Sergio Pettis were able to do against Moreno. If you're a competent, dynamic striker and you have a little bit of ground game like Pantoja and Pettis do, I think that you can actually defeat a guy like Moreno. Just don't get on the mat, don't let him take your back, and I think that he, or Kai Kara-France is going to be just fine in this one. I believe he's going to be able to control that octagon, use his Tiger Muay Thai kickboxing skills, and he's going to come out and he's going to pick up a great win here and potentially maybe set up a fight for himself in Benavides for what I hope is going to be a flyweight championship, because I believe Cejudo should give the belt up. He's holding up the bantam and flyweight divisions due to injury, and those McGregor days of holding up two weight classes are over. Hand over the belt if you're not going to defend it. I got to go with defender vacate on this one. Also, due to the time off for injury, it would be tough for him to defend both in the year 2020. So we'll see how things play out. I really would like to see him fight like a Dominic Cruz for the bantamweight title, and we'll kind of go from there with him. But that's a total sidebar. Either way, we're picking Kai Kara-France in this matchup. All right, we have just two contests left, and one of them is going to be another ladies' bout. Jessica Evil Eye taking on Viviane Araújo, and in this one, I gotta hand it over to Araújo. Both of these fighters are very competent. I got nothing really bad to say about either one of them, but I believe that Araújo is on the better trajectory right now. We saw what Shevchenko did to Eye, and I'm not saying Araújo is going to do the same, but I think that Araújo's stock is high right now. I think that, that chin of Eye could be in danger, especially since Araújo does have 3 KOs over 8 wins, and I think that she might be able to pull one off here. She did knock out Talita Bernardo and get a TKO against Emi Fujino in Pancrase back in 2018 before she came into the UFC. So she's got some recent KOs. She has a great win over Alexis Davis where she was very dominant, and so I think she's going to be able to do similar work to Jessica Eye. Nothing against her. I just think her stock has dropped since the loss to Shevchenko, and I think Viviane's is on the rise, and I think she's going to be able to get it done against Eye. We'll see how it plays out, though. In this one, we are picking Viviane Araújo. And then in the last contest, this is going to be a debuters contest. We are going to have, Oscar Pichota taking on Punale Soriano. So I don't know too much about Punale. He is a Hawaiian fighter. Probably, I imagine coming over due to the Max Holloway, kind of promotion going on out there. He does have, great wins. He's got 3 KOs, 2 submissions over 6 wins. He's undefeated. But I think the problem is he's going to run into a great Polish fighter in Oscar Pichota. Pichota has not proven himself to win the last couple outings in the UFC against Rodolfo Vieira and Gerald Meerschaert, but I believe that he's going to be able to defeat Soriano here. Pichota does have good skills. I think he's going to be able to get back on track against a fighter trying to make their debut and shut down a little bit of this kid's entry into the UFC. In that opening contest, we are going to pick Oscar Pichota. So let's go over them one more time. We have Usman, Volkanovski, Nunes, Aldo, Yan, Saunders, Kara-France, Araújo, Vieira, Neal, Akhmedov, the Teenage Dream Chase Hooper, and Oscar Pichota to round things out. So that brings us to the end of our show here. I did put a little bit of a shout out on Twitter to see if anybody want to write into the show, and I think I'm just going to stop mentioning it. Nobody's writing in. It is what it is, and hey, I'm just going to start opening the podcast that way. I'm going to be like, hey, if you want to, I'm going to move housekeeping to the front just so that if you are listening to this, maybe you'll get in contact with me. It is maybe tough to go to the end of a 30 or so minute podcast. But anyways, we'll be back, of course, with the retrospective on, I'm going to go with Sunday. I'm going to be watching it over at one of my buddies' houses, and we're all getting together, and it's going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to that one, so I will have a retrospective definitely on Sunday. There's no way I'm going to get it out on Saturday. I'm hoping, to do really well with these picks here. We obviously did pretty well last week. I've actually been doing okay the last couple of weeks, so just hoping to kind of keep things, rolling along. We haven't had like a crazy, amazing run, and I think those draws kind of robbed us of one last week. But I think we'll do well again this week. I'm feeling it. I think we've, gotten over kind of, a sophomore stumbles, as as things went on, we seemed to do, we came out of the shoot really good. Then we got a little bit worse. Now I think we're improving and getting back there. And I think I have things ratcheted down enough to the point where I feel confident about all the picks. But anyways, until I speak with you again next time, happy fight picking.